At 40 years old, he was doing everything right. A pension. No debt. Over $300,000 saved across retirement accounts and stock portfolios. The kind of financial discipline most people never achieve. And yet, every morning, he sat in his car for 45 minutes, watching the highway creep past, thinking the same thought. This can't be all there is. Long Island had always been expensive, but lately it felt suffocating. His rent was $2,000 a month for a place that was fine, just fine. He looked at the newer apartments nearby, $2,500. Nicer finishes, sure, but still renting, still building someone else's equity. He started browsing listings, condos in better neighborhoods. 25-minute commutes, places where he could actually see himself living, not just surviving. $300,000, maybe $350,000. With 20% down, the monthly payment would land right around $2,500 a month, the same as those rental apartments. Except this time, it would be his. He opened his spreadsheet again. He always came back to the spreadsheet. Take-home pay just over $2,000 every other week, after maxing out his Roth contributions. After everything, the retirement account sat at $140, all post-tax, which meant he'd already paid the bill on that money. His personal brokerage account held another $130, mostly in SPY and QQQ. The big index funds, the investments everyone said were safe. And then there was the high-yield savings account. $80,000, earning interest, waiting. The math was simple. A $60,000 down payment on a $300,000 condo would keep the mortgage manageable. He could pull $20,000 from savings. That left $40,000. He stared at the brokerage account balance. $80,000 in stock. Sitting there, appreciating. It wasn't just about buying a home. It was about breathing room. At $2,500 a month, he'd be stretched, not broken, but tight. Every month would require discipline. No surprises, no cushion. But if he put down $100,000 instead of $60,000, the mortgage dropped to $2,000 a month. The same amount he was already paying in rent. Comfortable. Predictable. He could live his life without calculating every dinner out, every unexpected car repair. All he had to do was sell $80,000 of stock. He sat with that number for a long time. The plan formed slowly, the way big decisions always do. $20,000 from the savings account. $80,000 from the brokerage. He'd still have $50,000 in liquid savings, still have the full retirement account untouched, and he'd own property, real estate, the American dream everyone talked about. His friends had done it years ago. Most of them were married, sure, dual incomes, but they all said the same thing: best decision we ever made. Nobody mentioned what they'd given up to get there. He clicked through the brokerage interface. His SPY holdings had grown steadily over the years. QQQ even more. The tech sector had been good to him. He calculated the gains. Rough math, but enough to know. He'd bought in at different times, different prices. Some shares he'd held for 5 years, some for 2. All of it long-term capital gains, 15% federal tax on the profit. Then New York State would take its cut. Another 6%, give or take. $80,000 in stock didn't mean $80,000 in his hand. He ran the numbers again. If half of that $80,000 was gains, he'd owe taxes on $40,000. 15% federal, 6% state, roughly $8,400. Gone just like that, not to the mortgage, not to the down payment, to the IRS, to Albany. The money would arrive in his account as $80,000, sure. But next April the bill would come. And if he didn't set aside cash now, he'd be scrambling, maybe dipping back into savings, maybe cutting his retirement contributions. The comfortable monthly payment suddenly had an asterisk. He started reading. Forums, articles, Reddit threads he wouldn't admit to browsing. Everyone had an opinion. Some said never sell investments for a home. Let the money compound. Rent forever if you have to. Others said real estate was the only real wealth. That renters were throwing money away. One thread stopped him cold. A guy in a similar situation, early 40s, sold $100,000 in stock for a down payment. 3 years later, the market had doubled. He'd missed out on $100,000 in gains. The house had appreciated too, sure, but not like that. The math was making him nauseous. Then there was the pension. 17 years until he could retire. Probably wouldn't, he told himself. But it was there, a safety net most people didn't have. Did that change things? If his retirement was already partially secured, did that make selling stock less risky? Or did it mean he should be even more conservative, protecting every dollar of growth? He closed the laptop. The commute the next morning felt longer than usual. Here's what nobody tells you about financial decisions. The spreadsheet only captures part of the story. There's the opportunity cost, sure. The taxes, the lost compounding, the market timing risk. But there's also the other cost, the one that doesn't show up in projections. 45 minutes in traffic twice a day, 10 hours a week, 500 hours a year. Spent in a car, going nowhere, living in a place that felt temporary. At what point does the emotional math outweigh the financial math? He didn't know. And that was the problem. The condos were still there when he checked again. Same price. Same promise of a better commute, a better neighborhood, a better life. The stock market was still open, still climbing. His savings account still held $80,000 in cash, earning its modest interest. Everything was still possible. But pulling the trigger meant accepting the trade. Market growth for monthly stability. Potential future wealth for present quality of life. The chance that he was selling at exactly the wrong time. Locking in a decision that couldn't be undone. He thought about switching his retirement contributions to pre-tax. That would free up another $150 a month, maybe $200. It wouldn't solve the down payment question, but it might make the monthly mortgage more comfortable without selling as much stock. $60,000 down instead of $100. Keep more invested. Keep more growing. But then the monthly payment crept back up toward $2,500. Back to uncomfortable. The real question wasn't whether selling stock for a down payment was dumb. The real question was what he was willing to sacrifice, and for what. A shorter commute. A nicer place. The pride of ownership, versus a brokerage account that might double in 10 years, or might crash tomorrow, versus the tax bill that was definitely coming, versus the reality that he was 40 years old, still renting, still waiting for the perfect moment that might never arrive. The spreadsheet couldn't answer that. He sat at his desk, staring at the numbers one more time. The cursor blinked in the cell where he'd written sell 80,000. Outside, someone was moving in. Another tenant, another person paying rent.